Yeah, good evening. We're going to like to call this meeting to order. 7 o'clock by our clock. Um, Mayor and Council wishes to acknowledge the town of Fort Smith is located within the Treaty 8 territory. The Treaty 8 territory also encompasses the traditional homelands of Salt River First Nations, Smith Landing First Nations, and the indigenous Métis people of Fort Smith. These nations have maintained stewardship over our sacred lands throughout generations. We honor their knowledge, teachings, traditions, and the land. We are mindful that colonization hasn't been kind. We respectfully reconcile our generational history and commit to striving for unity in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. Thanks. Um, Having said that, I'd like to send out my deepest condolences to the families, and they are Murphy family, Heron family, Abraham family, Walsh family, Burke family, and McDonald family. I'd like to send you my deepest condolences, and that's you're in our minds. Thank you. Okay, what is it next? Okay, approval agenda. No. Okay, can we do the review of our electronic motions?
I move that all cost invoice be approved from Fire and Flood Emergency Services for the wildfire management in the town of Fort Smith for the month of August until no longer required. This cost will be substantial, upwards of $250,000 per day, with the knowledge that the cost will be reimbursed from the GNWT MACA. Do I read the in favor part at the bottom? In favor was Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pissinger, Councillor Tuckey, Councillor Kroll, Mayor Daniels, Deputy Mayor McDonald, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Couvette. Motion was carried.
I'll second.
Question? Bastian Aslan.
Moved by Councillor Coral, second by Deputy Mayor McDonald, that the state of local emergency in Fort Smith be extended to Thursday, August 24th, 2023 at 11 a.m. In favor, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pissinger, Councillor Tuckey, Councillor Coral, Mayor Daniels, Deputy Mayor McDonald, Councillor Campbell, and Councillor Couvette. Motion was carried.
Moved by Councillor Kroll that utility billing for the town of Fort Smith be suspended for all customers for August, September, and October 2023, and that billing resumes for the month of November 2023. In favor were Councillors Ferguson, Pissinger, Tuckey, Kroll, Campbell, Couvette, Mayor Daniels, and Deputy Mayor McDonald, and that was seconded by Deputy Mayor McDonald.
Moved by Councillor Campbell that the state of local emergency in Fort Smith be extended to Thursday, August 31st, 2023 at 11 a.m. Seconded by Councillor Couvette, carried unanimously.
Moved by Councillor Campbell, second by Councillor Ferguson, that the state of local emergency in Fort Smith be extended to Thursday, September 7th, 2023 at 11 a.m. Carried unanimously.
Moved by Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Ferguson, that the state of local emergency in Fort Smith be extended to Thursday, September 14th, 2023 at 11 a.m. Carried unanimously.
Moved by Councillor Kroll that the town of Fort Smith writes a letter to Kaiser's store to approve covering the promissory notes that were used at the beginning of the wildfire threat. As this is unconventional, the circumstances of the evacuation are fluid process. This letter should be used as a bill for financial payment once reconciled by the financial department. In favor, Councillor Ferguson, Pissinger, Tuckey, Kroll, Mayor Daniels, Deputy Mayor McDonald, Councillor Campbell, and Councillor Couvette. Motion carried.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McDonald, second by Councillor Coral, that the town of Fort Smith would waive all tipping fees and provide free pickup of materials in support of the and upon reentry in conjunction with the fall community cleanup, and include free pickup of freezers and fridges from Bell Rock. In favor, Councillor Ferguson, Pissinger, Tucky, Coral, Campbell, Couvret, Mayor Daniels, and Deputy Mayor McDonald. Motion carried.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McDonald that the town of Fort Smith waive registration fees for the interim until people return and get their animals, seconded by Councillor Carroll. In favor, Councillors Ferguson, Pissinger, Tucky, Carroll, Campbell, Couvret, Mayor Daniels, and Deputy Mayor McDonald.
Moved by Councillor Kroll that the state of local emergency in Fort Smith be extended to Thursday, September 21st at 2023, 11 a.m. Carried unanimously.
Moved by Councillor Coral, second by Deputy Mayor McDonald, that Nicholas Carberry be appointed Development Officer for the town of Fort Smith. Carried unanimously.
Moved by Councillor Carroll that bylaw 1051, appointment bylaw officer Nicholas Carberry be introduced and given first reading. Whereas the Council of the Municipal Corporation of the Town of Fort Smith in the Northwest Territories deems it necessary to appoint bylaw enforcement officers to enforce the bylaws of the municipality. Now therefore, the Council of the Municipal Corporation of the Town of Fort Smith at a duly assembled meeting enacts as follows: that Nicholas Carberry be appointed bylaw enforcement officer for the Town of Fort Smith, that bylaw 1017 and bylaw 1038 be hereby repealed, that this appointment shall come into effect upon this bylaw receiving third reading, and carried unanimously.
Moved by Councillor Tucky that bylaw 105, appoint bylaw officer Nicholas Carberry be given second reading by title only. Carried unanimously.
Moved by Tucky, second by Councillor Couvret, that the state of local emergency in Fort Smith be extended to Thursday, September 28th, 2023 at 11 a.m. Carried unanimously.
Moved by Councillor Campbell, seconded by Deputy Mayor McDonald, that bylaw 1051, appoint bylaw officer Nicholas Carberry be given third reading by title only. Carried unanimously.
Okay, could I get the approval of agenda? Thanks.
I move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions? Passed unanimously.
I move that the minutes of regular meeting 08-23 of July 18th, 2023 be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Question? All in favor, passed unanimously.
I'll move that the minutes of the special meeting SPO 8-23 of July 19th, 2023 be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Question? Yes, Councillor Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Both of the previously approved regular meeting and this special meeting were conducted primarily via, I believe, distance technology. Excuse me, have a cold. And unfortunately, both times I had full intention of calling in and participating, and was unable to participate in these particular meetings. So the regular meeting actually included discussions with the Minister of Health, which I had several issues I wanted to bring up. That being said, given this day and age and the advancement of technology that's available basically nationwide, and the use of various platforms, I find it highly disappointing that we are unable to, as council members, be able to participate in meetings via use of electronic communications. Be it our system, the platforms we're using, there's something wrong that we cannot participate within our meetings should we choose or need to want to participate via electronic means. Secondly, and I've heard this quite a few times, is a lot of times the public is having issues with what we're talking about. There's issues with microphones, the technology that we're using. And again, I find this very disturbing because we are inviting the public to participate and hear what we have to say. And I've heard comments back from the public is we hear it's like they're mumbling. We can't hear them. We don't know what the question was. We don't know what they're voting about. So given all of that, I am going to bring forward a motion recommending that administration and mayor and council look at a review of how we're doing our electronic communications, not only being looking at means for us to be able to participate as mayor and council remotely, but for the public to be able to tune in and hear what we're saying and hear it clearly without question. So back to the motions, basically that administration with mayor and council review the options to improve and provide adequate and satisfactory remote and electronic communications.
I'll second that.
Question? Seeing none, all in favor? Oops.
I'd just like to say I agree with what you're saying. Like I find that sometimes it's difficult depending on what staff is here, who knows how to use the system, what's being turned on. We did have an issue with the internet being down, and Starlink was our only means of communication for a period of time. So maybe we have to look at alternatives of how our internet is working, how we're set up, and what our network looks like. So I definitely agree with what Councillor Cravette is proposing.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I also agree with you, Councillor Couvrette, and I think that probably one of the most important meetings that we had recently around the return to the community was significantly challenged with the poor internet connection that was available through Northwestel. And I think that was one of the biggest hurdles that we faced, is the connectivity was challenging, and we kept dropping the online feed. So, but I think it's a really good idea.
Okay, any questions on it? None? Yeah, I was under the thinking that we're supposed to get a new system here. I'm not sure where we are with it, but if we need to get more, let's get more. Because as communications, we seem to be lacking. And we've been on it for a long time here. Let's just get the best stuff. I know our phones are supposed to go to a one-stop shop. Can't wait for that to happen. I mean, that needs to come about to make it easier for the staff upstairs. So, you know, these are the people that are out front lines working for us, and yet they got to have the best of the best. They're the one who's holding the fort together. So I personally have no problem spending the money on it because we're only investing in ourselves. So thanks. That's a good one. Thanks. All in favor? Go.
This also goes to the redundancy of Northwestel. Currently, they had no backup system for when the fiber went down, and I think that is something that needs to be addressed from the leadership of this community on behalf of everybody. And I know NWTAC has had this on their radar for the last couple of years, but this was really highlighted this year, that they failed us miserably, and it could have been even worse than it was. So I think we need to address that as well.
Okay, so noted. Any other questions? See none, all in favor? All in favor, passed unanimously. Okay, on this last motion, special meeting SP-08-23, we need any questions on it? I see none. All in favor? All in favor, passed unanimously. Business arising for minutes. Councillor Crowe.
I'm just wondering if there's any updates regarding any of our, I'm not sure if this is where it should be or if it should be somewhere else, but about our capital projects that had been halted due to us being on evacuation.
SAO.
So we start the process of engaging contractors for our capital project. We just received 2 RFP for the zoning and zoning bylaw. We had no interest in the in the fence. We did an addendum for the sewage lagoon and to do an extension, so we should get some interest in that. Also, the main lift station and the water intake, there should be something coming up this week with AECOM. So we're just back, and I don't think everything is going to get done with the resources. We are in a time now where we have to think about budgets, and we have to be gathering costs for to submit. So some things are going to be done, other stuff are not going to be done based on time and other pressures, other operational pressures.
Okay, Councillor Crowe.
I was just wondering if there's any update with the paving projects. Did the company pull out for the winter? Are they coming back, or are we doing anything else?
I can follow up with the company and exactly what they're doing for the paving projects.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would it be possible to get an update for next week's committee meeting on which projects we're likely to see rolled back until 2024 and what will be going forward or could potentially be completed this fiscal?
Okay, declaration of financial interest. I see none.
I move that the Corporate Services Standing Committee minutes from August 1st, 2023 be adopted as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, I forgot discussion. Councillor Griffith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep this one quick. Under that particular corporate service meeting, under governance, section 4, there was a quick talk about the post-secondary education committee and the need for us to get together as a group to meet, and I probably will, as chair of that, be doing something in the next week or so to try and get the members together. But given the fact that we're quickly approaching election season for the GNWT, I'm just thinking it might be proactive for us to look at drafting a letter to the Minister of Education or to the new Minister of Education, have something ready to fire out right away to invite him and possibly the rest of Cabinet to Fort Smith upon them being sworn in. Just make sure we're up there ready to take our swings at them. So I will present, after we vote on this motion, I'd like to bring forward a motion that we, the mayor write a letter to the Executive Council.
Okay. Any more questions? See none, all in favor? All in favor, President Nasley. Councillor Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to bring forward a motion that the mayor write to the Executive Council to invite the new Minister of Education and any other ministers as appropriate to meet with the mayor and council of the town of Fort Smith as soon as possible after their cabinet appointments.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? See none? Okay, I'll get the letter done, then I'll show it to you, then we could do the sending out. Thanks. All in favor? All in favor, President Nasley.
I'll move that council does not provide a contribution to the Whooping Crane Festival.
I'll second.
Any questions? Councillor Ferguson.
Just that even though we're not providing financial contribution to this, I hope that festivals get to happen again and these kinds of things get postponed to the next year, because I think every festival got canceled for the month of August, right? And September. So hopefully we'll see it come back.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? All in favor, President Nasley? Okay, got one abstention, right? One opposed.
I'll move that Protective Services Standing Committee minutes from August 1st, 2023 be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Question. Mr. Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know this is becoming a bad trend, but first off, I think we all owe a great deal of appreciation, gratitude to the work that our Protective Services Division has provided over the past 8 weeks or so. They just did an amazing job, I think. It wasn't perfect, but I would like to I'm going to recommend a motion upon voting of the motion to approve the minutes. Basically, what I'd like to, the motion is just dealing with us undertaking a process to review how things went. I think it went fairly well, but there's always room for improvement, and more specifically, how we can improve. The biggest issue I heard was communications, and I don't think it was just the town's communications. That communications from the GNWT was almost non-existent, if you ask me, to a certain extent, for how evacuees were to get assistance, direction on where to evacuate to, how to evacuate. It was just, an S show. But I regret.
Okay, mover, did we get a mover? And we got a seconder. Okay, question, any more questions? I see none. All in favor? All in favor, pass unanimously. Councillor Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the mayor and council and administration initiate a process to review the response activity to the Summers wildfire situations with a focus on communications and areas of improvement. No finger pointing.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I think it's definitely a process that the community needs to go through. I think we should try and look at it objectively from a third party and not engage our staff into doing an internal review of their own process. I would think that we need to do an after-action review through an RFP process and set out the exact parameters that we want to look at so that it's very specific as to the areas that we want to review. So from some of the interactions I've seen and some of the comments, I think there's a couple of things that sort of climb to the top of the list. Certainly communication, as you've said, Councillor Couvret, but I think there's also some financial processes and how some of the procurement and that went on early on in the evacuation. And I know it's an emergency situation, but I still think there needs to be a certain level of process that's followed as to who has spending authority, who doesn't, who's got the ability to direct someone to purchase, as opposed to just anyone can go and do it. And I think there was some of that went on early. And I think that our folks, our boots on the ground here, including our counselors that were here, Councillor Cooper or Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Campbell, and Councillor Bolio did a spectacular job. I came in a couple weeks in and they did a great job of working with the community, of helping. Our staff did a fabulous job. I could sit here and talk for an hour about what a good job they all did and how dedicated they were. And every morning at 7 a.m. they were there going hard. And sometimes at 11 in the evening, still there going hard. So, you know, it was a huge effort. So I think we owe it to those folks that put that tremendous effort in to do a proper review of the process to ensure that the next time we're in that situation, we can be in a better spot and provide them with more tools that will allow them to do even a better job the next time. So I think to do that, the after action review, but that it's objective from a third party and not something that we're trying to ask one of our staff to stick handle off the side of their desk.
Councillor Crowe.
I agree as well with the deputy mayor on his comments. I think it was a fabulous surprise and pleasure that we came home to a community, and we have many, many people to be grateful for. But it is very imperative that we do a good review, and with no fingers pointing, that type of thing, but a critical incident stress debriefing as well for those who were involved in the boots on the ground thing is also good for those people as well. I think we need to include some of our other partners who were in town, like the businesses, that type of thing, to see what can be done better as well. And I would just like to thank everybody for those who were involved here and that we have a house to come back to. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you. Yeah, you actually just mentioned what I was going to say is making sure that this debrief includes the business community, because I think in the planning of this, like I don't know how much thought went into the private enterprise of what it took to operate something like this in an emergency situation. There was a lot of private enterprise here who really filled in all the gaps that was required. So making sure that they're included in that debrief would be ideal.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I guess my thought would be we could do a two-staged kind of approach where I don't know that there's value to have the public input into our internal review of our internal processes, but I think there's huge value in taking the document that we create from our internal review and then engaging the public based on that to get their feedback on the process afterward, because I don't know that their input into our day-to-day operation would necessarily benefit the review of how we handle things internally, if that makes sense.
Councilor Ferguson.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think this debrief for that maybe would be in addition to what we're talking about of our internal review is more like how are we going to plan for the next time? Because it's not going, there is going to be a next time. And, you know, the fire is still very present and in our bush right now. And it's going to come back next spring for sure, right? We saw what had happened in Fire 22 across the river. It didn't go anywhere, but came back much larger. So I think we can expect that this spring that will come back. And while it's fresh in the folks' mind, like to get the information of what worked and didn't work from the people that provided the food, to the fuel, to the beds, to the blank, like all of those things, before what they knew did and didn't work is lost, you know, because time, you'll forget things. So making sure to collect that information now before it's forgotten so that you can use it for our next crisis, no matter what it is.
Councilor Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My next comment's unrelated to the actual motion that we're talking about, but related in that it involves review of wildfire situations. And I want to make specific reference to the Kakisahay River wildfire, which had a dramatic impact on myself and many other people from our community. Situations where the town of Fort Smith, in practicality and good faith, issued an evacuation order on August 12th, advising people to evacuate to Hay River, and then arriving in Hay River to find the next day that the town of Hay River was forced to issue an evacuation order for that place. So what I would really like to see the town play some part in is being involved in a call for a public inquiry to how did that happen, where we as a body with advice did not have the information that going to Hay River was not such a great idea based on weather forecasts and things that were happening at the time. Like, I think that needs to be looked at a territorial level. And I think for us to sit back and say, well, that fire happened in Hay River. No, it happened to a lot of people in Fort Smith who evacuated to Hay River, and several people were, myself included, close to death from the result of that particular evacuation. And that should never happen.
Okay, Councilor Ferguson.
Thank you. I just want to agree with everything you just said. My thoughts are there. Like that's where we'd sent to all of our people here to go, and then they just ended up on 24 hours later evacuating there. I know that the season is unprecedented, that are the models that we're using are unprecedented, that the weather can't be predicted because it's unprecedented or precedented. So why don't we need better models, better forecasting. And if the advice that we're getting from folks like MACA and GNWT and ECC are saying, yeah, go evacuate to a community, only then to be evacuated from there, well, then they're not getting the right information. We're not using the right tools, and we're not using what is the safest method for the community. And that is a territorial job to make it safe for us, right?
Councilor Bolio.
Yeah, just to make our job a little bit easier, we do have 4 leaderships in this community. I think we should get them involved as they have different groups that they can gather the information that we need rather than just putting everything on ourselves.
Thanks. Any more questions? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor, press unanimously. Eh? Okay.
I move that DPA-023-040 submitted by Levi McDonald to operate a home occupation business, McDonald Northern Arts, from Lot 787, Plan 490, 31 Tamarack Crescent in Fort Smith be approved.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor, press unanimously.
I'll move that the Community Service Standing Committee meetings of August 8th, 2023 be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions? See none, no. Councillor Corbett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one will be short. Part of the minutes of that particular meeting, we were under the review process. We talked about the issues of a need to revisit and update our economic development strategy, our donations policy, and the community recreation center signage. I think those are all very relevant still. And as part of that whole process, I know we talked briefly back, that be months ago now, the possibility that we as mayor and council need to sit down, maybe pick a Saturday fairly quickly to revisit and reset our priorities for the last year of our term.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Any more questions? I see none. All in favor? All in favor, pass unanimously.
I move that administration and the Director of Community Services prepare and design a proposal and budget for a comprehensive outdoor sign at the Community and Recreation Center for Council's consideration.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions, Deputy Mayor?
Sorry, I'm a little lost on this one. What is the sign for?
I believe that's so that it incorporated, it said all the different places that were in there, like the William Schaefer Memorial Pool, the Pete's Gym, just so that it was advertised on the outside.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? All in favor? Pass unanimously.
I move that the Municipal Services Standing Committee minutes from August 8th, 2023 be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor? All in favor, pass unanimously.
I'll move that. The administration and Director of Municipal Services attain a quote for the installation of a black 4-foot chain link fence at the cemetery, and that the project be prioritized for the 2023 budget.
I'll second.
Any questions?
Can I,
SAO.
so I actually went ahead and did request for tender. There was nothing, and I believe there was a discussion about having a community leadership get together and do this as a community project so everybody can be satisfied.
Councillor or Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree. I think this has been on our plate for a long time. We've put it out now to tender. There was no one interested in doing it. I think Councillor Coubret was made the suggestion about it being a community project through the leadership committee. And I think that's a great idea. You get the community involvement, you can get the participation. It's an opportunity for some folks to learn some skills, and we can come up with a product at the end of the day that the community's happy with. And probably a little savings to the town maybe along the way. So I think it's a win-win.
Okay, any other questions? There's the only thing too that we're doing 2 cemeteries, right? We're not doing 1. Thanks. Okay, all in favor? All in favor, pass unanimously. Okay, Mayor and Council Board representation updates. Councillor Tucky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to welcome all our residents back home to Fort Smith. I guess the last 6 weeks we've all been tested and tried, and fortunately for us, we were all able to come back to Fort Smith, back to our homes. And it's going to take a little time to rebuild what we've had and get back to a stage of normalcy, I guess. Maybe it'll be a new normal, I don't know. But I'd just like to welcome everybody home. And unfortunately, during the past 6 to 8 weeks, we've had several communities members pass away. I'd just like to share my condolences with the passing of Sandy Murphy, to the Campbell and the Murphy families, to Mike White, his family, the Walsh family, passing of Chris Heron to the Heron family, and to the Abraham with the passing of Jason Abraham, Steen Burke. I'd like to extend my sympathies to the Heron and the Burke families there. And with passing of Phil McDonald, I extend my deepest sympathies to the McDonald family. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Crow.
I would also like to welcome everybody back home and extend a very big appreciation to all those who worked so hard and diligently to ensure that we had homes to come back to. And I would also like to express condolences to all those who were saddened to lose family members while we were evacuated. But also I would like to welcome some family members who are new to the community, because we had a few new babies being born, and they're welcome back to them. I would also like to express my appreciation to the town staff and the town councilor for all the work that they're doing as well to ensure that things were kept running as smoothly as possible. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to welcome everybody home, and my condolences to all those who are dealing with loss or loved ones who have passed. I want to thank everyone who watched all my videos while you were gone. Everyone who's been come back has been really thankful about them, and I'm really happy that I could have shared with you guys to give you guys a peace of mind while you're not here. And just really excited to see things getting back to normal. School started, kids are talking about sport, kids, it feels nice. It feels great to have everyone here, community back, up and running. And I'm just happy everyone's back. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Campbell is not here with us tonight. Councillor Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As per my colleagues here, welcome back, everybody. Yes, it was a very trying time for most people. And through it, we came back to a community that's different, but at least everything's intact as a community. My appreciation for the work that fellow councillors who remained in the community during that time, that was very much appreciated by myself and I think every other member of our community. If not, they can go to hell, but I've said that before. As well to all the first responders and other people that came to our community from across the world to help us out. Thank you. It was much appreciated, and we owe them a great deal. With that in mind, we should also remember that this year there was a loss of firefighters, one in the NWT and some others in BC, and pay our respects to those losses. And also, when we look at some of the other communities, Community of Enterprise in Hay River and Betchco, Yellowknife, where people did lose cabins, houses, and things like that, their livelihoods. So, my condolences to them as well.
Okay, Councillor Bissinger is not here, so Councillor Molio.
I also would like to send my condolences to all the families that lost their loved ones, and welcome everybody back to Fort Smith. And also thank you to everybody that came far and near and overseas to help us all out. And also to the fellow councillors that were here and everybody else that put in their time and effort in these fires. And especially to the firefighters that spend endless hours trying to put out all these fires and still out there working today. And that's about all I have.
Thanks. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to pass my condolences to all of the families that lost loved ones through this challenging section of time for our community. And I also want to say that I'm thinking of all the folks that have suffered trauma through this. There's a lot of folks that lost loved ones. There's other folks that, like Councillor Couvret, faced very challenging situations. There's a lot of firefighters and frontline first responders that face challenging situations, that put their lives on the line every day to protect our communities and the others around the north. And it's really hard at times to listen to folks talk. And, I sort of started avoiding Facebook because you see these negative comments. It's really, the folks that are making those negative comments should just look inside themselves and say, maybe you need to thank one of those firefighters or one of those first responders or one of the people that stayed in these communities and put their life on the line day in, day out, so you had a home and a community to come back to. The other thing I wanted to say around that is that there are trauma specialists in the community, in all of the communities made available through the territorial government. Those resources are there for the folks that are suffering or suffered trauma, or may have suffered trauma and you really don't realize that you suffered trauma. I was in a presentation the other day from one of the doctors, and they said sometimes it'll take, everyone's still busy and working hard at this, and we're trying to transition back into normal life. And sometimes it takes time for that to set in. So, just look out for each other, be kind, be patient, and just work together as a community. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm not even sure where to start. But as I said, I'd send my condolences to the people that we lost here in Smith. And it's been trying times. This is the first time our community ever went through a evacuation. hearing it from the old guys, I think the closest one was 1954 or something. But this is the first time, and we could have done it right. We could have done it maybe better, whatever. But this is our first time. Live and learn. And after this is over, we got to come up with some kind of plan that it's going to be a lot easier for us if it happens again. Like these lines that should have been cut in. We got to maintain those probably annually or every 2 years. They have to be done from now on, so we don't get in that mess. There's big stands of trees in their community, which now we got the territorial government and the federal government going to work with us on taking those away. And one of them is like at JB2 school. I was probably about 12 years old, 10 years old when I was playing that, when they done the underbrushing. That was 50 some years ago. That hasn't been done. So those need to be reestablished, redone again. Because it's not only on the outside that our community suffer. You could have a house fire and then catch in the bush and catch your neighbors, and now you got something big. We got to come up with a plan to stop that. And for all the people and the council that stayed behind, I thank you. And you done a heck of a job. I wasn't worried about the beauty of Fort Smith. I was more worried about the homes and inventory that you have in your homes, and that you have a community to come back to. The beauty we could always fix later. That's not a big problem. So that really didn't really bother me too much. It was about the people's homes. And there's two councillors here that I'd like to personally thank. And I know we had arguments on this, and that was Campbell and Ferguson. Campbell came to me first, trying to get me out of town, and I'm stubborn-headed. I don't listen to people. I don't. I listen to myself. And that time I wasn't going. And the last one came along was Ferguson, Councillor Ferguson. Finally, at night, she got me to go. And you know what? I was lucky I went. This time I was lucky, because while I was there, I ended up in hospital for a week. And yeah, I could have lost my life. There was no way I was going to come back if I was here, because they had to give me a blood transfusion because I was bleeding out internally. So, yeah, I'd like to say thanks to both of them. And yes, I know I'm stubborn-headed to work with, and I only see it my way. And yeah, I guess that made me own up to it. That yeah, I lie lots. Just to stay working. Tell you I'm fine. My famous words. My family will say that. It's your famous words. I'm fine. But anyway, again, thank you. We do have a lot of work to do. In a matter of short time, winter's coming around. Like there's people who need wood. We got to get that answered for them. And yeah, this hit really took me hard, because I lost 3 people out of the senior home, and those 3 people are never coming home again. Hard to take. But we came through it, and we'll only get better at our jobs. And we're Fort Smithers. We're strong. We could do anything. And with that, I'd like to thank you, thank the public, thank my colleagues, councillors, and the staff who are here behind doing a wonderful job. And yeah, thanks. Okay, draft of arena user agreement.
I move that the 23-24 arena user agreement be approved as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you. I don't agree with this document. I think we need to remove 11-5. I don't think we should keep that in our agreement with the user group. The sale and serving of alcohol not permitted during events with participants under the legal age drinking in the NWT referred to as minor in the Liquor Act, meaning individual under the age of 19. What this would do was prevent any child to be able to play with Christmas Classic, Hogabow, women's tournaments, male tournaments, because they host beer gardens. They wouldn't allow those kids, either they can't play the sport or you can't have the fundraising initiative. So I think we need to remove that part of this agreement out of here.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree with Councillor Ferguson. I think that, in my opinion, this user agreement should go back to committee for a review of that specific section.
Okay, any more questions? Councillor Corbett.
Just my comment is I was one of the ones that did initially bring concerns about the serving of alcohol in town operated facilities, and I still have that concern. I do realize that for many of the user groups, the sale of alcohol is a significant fundraising opportunity for them. But in this day and age when the realities of what alcohol and drug abuse has done to our community in the past and continues to do in many cases, that has to be taken into account as part of our allowing user groups to use our facilities. So I'd like to see the whole section on how we deal with the serving of alcohol by user groups during events being hosted in a town facility.
Okay, any other questions? See none, all in favor? Not in favor, okay. Okay. Oppose? Okay, all opposed? Motion defeated. Councilor Ferguson.
I just want to follow up that to make sure that this does go back to the user or to CSAB. Is that who this was for, so that they can maybe look at that again?
Councilor Gubert.
We also should keep in mind that we do have user groups that are going to be wanting to access our arena and other facilities over the short term, and more specifically, I think they're going to be trying to do scheduling for the arena fairly soon. So not approving this does have an impact on that ability, and I think in the default we should advise our or at least I'm going to suggest that we advise administration that they should continue to use the previous user agreement to facilitate that process until such time as we approve a new agreement.
Okay, well noted. Any other questions? Councilor Clero.
When is the ice going in?
SAO.
I will have to follow up and get back to you on the access code.
Well, Councilor Ferguson.
Do you need a motion for us to make that for the staff to administration to use the prior method? No. Okay.
Okay, next.
I'll move that briefing note DPA-043-23 Natalie Anderson Home Occupation Business be approved for as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, questions? Okay, Councilor Ferguson.
I'm opposed to this business going in as it is right now in a residential area. I think it would have a great impact on the, well, actually, yeah. A great impact on the community, like in the neighborhood, with if it's going to have 2 to 12 tents put up. What kind of tents? You know, what does that look like? Are these storage tents or dwelling tents? Like what does that really look like? And then storage. I think the traffic tents, it'll make definitely change what that looks like in that area and the use of it.
Okay, any other questions?
I also believe there's a mention that they're storing vehicles as well. Not in there. Storing vehicles, tents, on-site parking. It's going to be a lot of increased traffic.
This is just a residential area, normal residential lot, not like a lot out in the bush somewhere kind of thing. This is like in town. Yeah, I definitely think that it would have too much of a negative impact in that neighborhood then.
Hey, Councilor Corbett.
Yeah. With the amount of details provided for me to make a decision on this, it's totally inadequate. Yeah. There's no indication of, other than where it is, but there was reference to attached map. I was unable to find that as part of the document that was circulated, and just a degree of details like explaining what this business really is doing. Without that information, I'm very hesitant to make a decision either in favor of or against this particular application.
Okay, any other questions? So do we want more information on this? Send it back for more information? Or do we just want to vote? Deputy Mayor?
Well, there's a motion on the floor, so I think we have to vote for the motion, but after the motion, if the motion is defeated, there's nothing preventing us or administration from going back to the folks and asking them if they want to resubmit with additional information.
Okay, thanks. Any more questions? I see none. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, all opposed? Motion defeated.
I move that Councilors Ferguson, Carroll, and, I guess, I withdraw.
Okay, I'll move that Councillor Ferguson, Coral, Deputy Mayor McDonald be excused from the Corporate Services and Protective Services Standing Committee meetings on August 1st, 2023.
I'll second.
All in favor? All in favor, pass unanimously. Forget about the abstain, vote.
I move that Councillor Ferguson and Deputy McDonald be excused from the Community Services Municipal Services Standing Committee meetings on August 8th, 2023.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, passed unanimously.
I move that Councilors Campbell and Pissinger be excused from the regular council of 0823 on September 26, 2023.
I'll second.
Question and vote. All in favor? No? All in favor, passed unanimously.
The date of the next council meetings are Corporate and Protective Services Standing Committee meeting are October 3rd. Community and Municipal Services Standing Committee meeting is October 10th. And regular meeting of council is on October 17th, 2023.
Thanks.
I move that the meeting be adjourned at 8:02 PM.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? All in favor, passed unanimously.